Hi, artists. Today we're going to learn how to do a simple paper weaving. You guys have learned that weaving is an AB pattern. Well, I'm going to show you a way to weave paper and then maybe make a creation from that weaving. But I want to teach you a few things about weaving. There are 3 words I want you to learn. The first one is loom. The loom holds all of the string or the yarn together. It's sort of like the outside frame. And then there is the warp strings. Those are the ones that go vertically up and down along that frame. And then there is what's called the weft. And that's the string that you weave under, over the warp. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So that is just some vocabulary to go along with weaving. What I like about weaving paper like this is once you weave it in a square, you could trim your edges in such a way to make things like possibly an owl. So you could collage together something like that to create an owl or any kind of creature using a weaving. You guys get creative and see what you can do with weaving. All right, so to get started, we are going to just use a piece of colored construction paper. This is going to be our loom and our warp. So the first step is to fold it in half like a book. It doesn't have to be perfect, but line it up as best you can. I like to line it up at the open edge, put my finger down, and then put a crease at the fold in the middle, and then push both directions so I get a nice even crease. All right, once you've folded your paper, now you're going to take the open edge, not the folded edge. I like to hold the folded edge so I know not to mess with that edge. I'm going to take one flap of the open edge and fold it down to make another fold about as thick as my thumb, kind of like I'm making an envelope, because I need a guideline to tell me how far to cut my warp. So again, I'm going to fold that crease. And you can see now this folded edge right here created a line. So we are going to cut our warp to that line. That's our guideline. Do not cut past that line. All right, so fold that open edge down just on one side so that you have that cutting guideline. All right. Now we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut from the folded edge. Double check, make sure that you folded down the lip from the open edge. So we're going to start cutting from the bottom of the folded edge up to the line we created from that fold. We're going to start in the middle and cut straight up. Remember, do not cut past that folded line. That's your guideline. All right, now we have 2 sides. So now we're just going to cut strips, again, about as thick as your thumb, maybe an inch, evenly across each side. This will create our warp. So go ahead and cut those strips, making sure they go all the way to our guideline that we folded. You will probably get 1, 2, 3, 4 warps on both sides of our original cut. All right, once we have cut those, now it's all cut. Now you're going to open it up, lay it flat. That is your loom, which is the frame along the outside, and our warp. All right, now we're going to take strips of paper. This would be the weft, and we're going to weave those over under along our paper. Over, under, over, under. Again, it's that A-B pattern. And then push it down with your fingers and then do the next one. So the next one will be the opposite. This is over, this one needs to go under. Under, over, under, over. So we're going to continue to weave in that pattern. All right, now for that very last strip, I like to actually measure my last strip of paper. So I'm going to take my fingers and just push as far down as I can get my strips to go to make my pattern nice and tight like a checkerboard. And then I'll take my last strip and just double check the lines and see how thick I need it. This strip is actually cut perfectly, but sometimes they're not, and you'll need to trim your strip down a little bit. So that's okay, but I did this one pretty accurately. I'm pretty impressed with myself. So now is the tricky part, because it's so tight, sometimes it's easier to actually pull it under and then start from the back side and stick it through, or you can use your finger and kind of prop it open and then push it through. So this is just takes a little bit more patience, this last strip, especially if you have done it nice and tight like I have. So again, I'm going to push it through, pull it through from the back side, and then here, push it up with my other finger and push it through. And this one actually might need to be trimmed a little bit. We got it in, and then the last one, push it back through. So there I have my nice tight checker pattern. Now I can just adjust these strips as I need to. But that is the basics of paper weaving. Now, what you need to decide is what you're going to do with it. Like I said, at this point, if you want to create, like I made the owl, I can just trim the edges ever so slightly to curve them, but make sure you do not cut past here. You need to leave a frame, because if I cut my orange and I cut past here, the whole thing will fall apart. So, but you can trim a little bit of that top edge, and then here I could trim a little bit also just to round those corners. But again, don't go past there, because you need it to stay together. All right, now you are going to brainstorm, what could this weaving be in maybe a painting or drawing. All right, have fun, artists.